Okay, I need some guidance here. I need some assistance. I just had to walk out of the studio. It's part of getting set up and ready for the big program, folks. Getting set up, wired up, and all that. And I'm walking out, and I out of the corner of my eye, I see a big headline on CNN. And and I stopped and looked at it, but the sound was off. I didn't have time. I had no idea what they were saying. I only saw the headline, and I had to keep moving. The headline said, conservative host, the future of the GOP hangs on Ohio. Do you know who's saying that, Snerdley? Do you have? Because I don't want to step into something here before. You have any? Anna Navarro was speaking at the time on CNN, but she's not a host of anything. So I have no idea. But that's in the future of the GOP hangs on Ohio. You know what's happening out there, folks? It's incredible. The establishment is once again demonstrating exactly why they are being rebelled against. Greetings, great to have you. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. So what happened between the time we were last here and this moment when the program begins? There's a story out there that says both Kasich and Rubio are thinking now of revising their pledge to support the nominee. Now take the context and details out of this for a second and ask yourself a question. Isn't that exactly why the Republican Party is in trouble? It has elected officials who go out and make promises. They make promises during campaigns. They make promises all the time, and then they break them. Now, you might be saying, well, this is a pledge they should break, Rush. I mean, Trump is really dangerous. We can't afford to have Trump in there. And, the panic has really set in now. We've got a great audio soundbite roster today that pretty much tells the whole story of the day from all aspects. Some great opinion pieces out there on the absolute end of America if Donald Trump is the Republican nominee. And I'm going to share all of this stuff with you. But here again, and Carly Fiorina is out there warning people, all of you anti-Trumpsters, you better stop attacking his voters. That's not the way to do it. If you keep attacking his voters and if you succeed in defeating Trump for the nomination, you're going to have gazillions and gazillions of ticked off Republicans that are not going to vote for whoever it is you engineer this nomination for. And she's exactly right. If it at all perceives that Trump is the de facto or actual winner of this thing, and they find a way to take it away from him, there's going to be hell to pay. And his voters, who knows what they'll do, and who knows what Trump will do, go third party or what have you. But she is exactly right about this. I know everybody's struggling. Well, then if we can't attack his voters and we can't attack him, how do you defeat Trump? Well, you could have taken him seriously earlier on. How many people thought Trump wasn't in it for real up until February? How many people thought Trump was going to implode? How many people stood aside? And how many people chickened out? How many people refused to attack Trump because he's just going to turn around and attack you? Didn't want to deal with it. By the way, you don't think the Democrats are afraid of that? I've got two stories. This is amazing in itself. I have, it was Buck Sexton. Buck Sexton was the host on CNN, who has been a guest host on this. That's why I said I got to be careful who it is they're talking about. It was Buck Sexton. I guess he wrote a piece for CNN, which they put up about an hour ago, or a couple of minutes ago. Anyway, his point is the future of the GOP hangs on Ohio, which means the future of the GOP hangs on John Kasich. And that's what they're setting up today. Let me tell you, you Cruz people, you ought to be fit to be tied, because the drive-by media and even some people on Fox News are suggesting if Kasich wins Ohio today that he's the new hero. He's bigger than Cruz. He's more important than Cruz. Has he won a state? He has not won a state, has he? Rubio's at least won a state. Cruz has won 9 or 10 or 11 states. Kasich, does he even have 50 delegates? I don't have the delegate count, but look what they're doing. If Kasich wins Ohio, that means he beats back Trump, and that means the race. It's why I said yes. If you really want to beat Trump, you need Trump to win both Florida and Ohio today. You need Kasich and Rubio out of this race. If that's the last best hope that people who want to defeat Trump have. Keeping Kasich in this thing is not the answer. All they're doing with that is angling for a contested convention where the establishment can work their magic, quote unquote, and deny the will of the people as expressed by votes in the primary season. That's what Kasich represents. Now, if you happen to believe that Trump represents the end of the Republican Party, if you happen to believe that Trump represents the end of the United States of America, but more specifically, if you believe that Trump represents the end of the Republican Party, then I guess you can do whatever you think you have to do to save the party. But if you ask me, and nobody did, what the heck has the party been doing lately to recommend itself to people? We've got some incredible Kasich sound bites. He says he just recently learned all the things Trump's been saying. He's been so focused on his own campaign, so focused on running Ohio, so focused on being a good governor, and so focused on preparing for the debates that he's not familiar with all these bad things Trump's been saying. That's why he hasn't been out there condemning them. But I'm serious. The only guy that has a chance to beat Donald Trump is Ted Cruz, folks. At this stage, and if people's votes are going to be the determining factor, and believe me, that's what the establishment is trying to set up, is the erasure of your votes by going to a contested convention. Look at this. This is from the Daily Caller. RNC Rules Committee member. Every delegate at Republican convention not bound on first ballot. Oh, really? We've got a committee member on a rules committee saying, no, delegates don't have to vote the way the voters did in the first ballot. Well, then what the hell are we doing here? Kasich has 63 delegates. Trump's got, here's the latest. These numbers float because there's so many different ways of apportioning or assigning delegates. But the ballpark numbers are Trump 469, Cruz 370, so 99 behind. Rubio at 163, Kasich at 63. And the future of the Republican Party hangs on John Kasich, who, by the way, George Soros just donated $200,000 or $300,000 to. You didn't know that? Oh, you didn't know that? Well, let me find that here in this. Soros associate gives $200,000 to pro-Kasich super PAC. Scott Bessent of Soros Fund Management, investment firm founded by liberal megadonor George Soros, has given more than $202,000 to help John Kasich's presidential campaign, according to FEC records. I saw this developing on the news today that Kasich's going to be the big one. All Kasich has to do is win Ohio, and he is the big winner of the day today. North Carolina's got more delegates than Ohio has, but it's a difference in a winner-take-all and apportionment and how they're divvied up and so forth. I think it's 75 in North Carolina. Ohio gets a lot of attention because of its importance in the general election. A Republican National Committee Standing Rules Committee member told the membership last Friday that convention delegates are not bound to cast their votes at the convention according to primary vote results in the first round of voting. Curly Hogland of North Dakota, longtime member of the RNC Standing Rules Committee, sent a letter to the RNC membership at large about the issue. He explained how he came to the conclusion that all Republican delegates who participate in the 2016 convention are unbound on every ballot, including the first. First I've heard of this. But now we've got a Rules Committee guy asserting it. Here's the excerpt from the letter. As most of you know, I've been defending the right of the delegates of the convention to vote according to their personal choice in all matters to come before the convention, including the vote to nominate the candidate for president for several years. Here's something I recently discovered that most of us did not know, including me. Binding delegates to the results of presidential preference primaries first appeared in the rules of the Republican Party in 1976. Without the use of force to bind the votes of delegates to the results of the primary process, primaries are nearly worthless beauty contests. These guys admitting it. I want to remind you, there's no way, John Kasich, if you believe that the primaries matter, and if you believe that the primaries are where we nominate or choose the nominee, and if you believe that if you believe that, there's only one thing you want to hate. You want Kasich and Rubio eliminated today. You have to coalesce all of the anti-Trump support behind one candidate, would be Ted Cruz. That's the only prayer you've got. Those of you who are anti-Trump, the only prayer you've got. Because I guarantee if they go this contested convention route, and that's clearly what they're aiming for, you think they're going to put Cruz in there after they deny it to Trump? No way, Jose, little Spanish lingo there. The establishment's going to put one of their northeastern moderate liberal guaranteed losers in there. In fact, the way I'm reading things, there are some Republicans thinking it is worth losing for 25 years in order to deny Cruz or Trump the nomination because of what that would mean for the Republican Party. So I'm going to take a time out. We're going to come back. We're going to start with the audio soundbite roster, which tells a huge detailed story today, and we'll include your phone calls in it. So hang in there. Be tough. We're back in just a moment. Your guiding light, Rush Limbaugh, here at the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies on whatever they're calling this, Super Duper Tuesday, Super Tuesday 2. It is what it is. I want to read to you an excerpt from a column that ran, I believe it was Sunday at the New York Times. Ross Douthat is a brilliant conservative columnist. He has a piece, I think it's once a week, maybe twice, in the New York Times. And he's in the group of people that's very, very worried about Trump and what his nomination would mean, not just for the party, but for the country. Here's the excerpt. Trump, though, is cut from a very different cloth. He's an authoritarian, not an ideologue. And his antecedents are not Goldwater or McGovern, meaning people that preceded him, guided him, people that you might consider are in the same league. Trump's antecedents are people like George Wallace and Huey Long. No modern political party has nominated a candidate like this. No serious political party ever should. Because such figures speak, as did George Wallace and Huey Long and Ross Perot and others, to real grievances. The process of dealing with them is necessarily painful. I mean, their complaints are legitimate. The grievances they cite are real and people are experiencing. So it's tough to deal with these candidates like Trump. It often involves a third-party bid and a difficult reckoning thereafter. Trump would be no exception. Denying Trump the nomination would indeed be an ugly exercise, one that would weaken or crush the party's general election chances and leave the GOP with a long, hard climb back up to unity and health. Okay, now that sets up the three-point shot here. But if that exercise is painful, denying Trump the nomination, if denying Trump the nomination is painful, it's also the correct path to choose, writes Mr. Douthat. A man so transparently unfit for office should not be placed before the American people as a candidate for president under any kind of imprimatur save his own. And there's no point in even having a party apparatus, no point in all those chairmen and state conventions and delegate rosters if they cannot be mobilized to prevent the 35% of the Republican primary elected from imposing a Trump nomination on the party. So this probably suffices as an opinion or thought shared by many in the establishment. And that is that whatever we do, we cannot allow Trump, and we've got to use everything at our disposal. Hell, it's our party. We run the party. We run the chairman of the delegations. We own the states. We run the national convention. We run the state conventions. And hell's bells, we're not going to sit around and let 35% of the Republican primary electorate nominate this guy. If we're worth anything, if we're worth our salt, if what we do as Republican leaders and establishment kingmakers, if it matters, we have got to deny this man the nomination of our party. And that's what's going on out there right now. It is what is informing pretty much every bit of thinking from Mitt Romney to Kasich to everybody else in the establishment. And they go on to say that they would much rather end up being a minority party for many, many moons, drifting aimlessly in the wilderness, rather than have Trump be the standard bearer and the nominee. So that's why all of these people are focusing on Ohio today and John Kasich. John Kasich winning Ohio, they all believe, gives them the power, the right, the necessary energy and indication of support that they can go in and take control of this entire nominating process and do whatever they have to do to deny it to Trump. So that's why they're all claiming the future of the GOP today hangs on Ohio and what Kasich represents for them. Mitt Romney's in there running around doing appearances with him, get out the vote efforts and so forth. And I don't see how this ends in a positive way, no matter what the outcome is. If Trump succeeds and gets a nomination, what are these people going to do? I mean, they're going to be homeless. And here's another thing to think about. This is something I think everybody has to think about within this context. Let's say they succeed in taking it away from Trump. Do they think that Trump's going to say, okay, well, that was fun. That was a fun 6 or 7 months. Go back to Mar-a-Lago and Trump Tower and resume his life? Or is he going to realize that he has assembled and put together a pretty significant political movement that could be used to redefine the Republican Party or start a new party? My point is that if these people are not careful, no matter what happens here, they're going to lose the Republican Party, or a significant percentage of it, if they're not careful the way they go about this. And the way they're going about it is fraught with danger, because they are once again, as many Republican voters think, the establishment is once again maneuvering itself to take away the voice of American Republican voters. That's how it's going to be seen, and that's not going to stand them in good stead.